Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Goddess Frequency event. Today we have a really special guest, Holiday Phillips. She is a leadership coach, master facilitator, and speaker who has spent 15 years helping women step fully into their power. She has worked with leaders at Apple, Google, LinkedIn, Nike, and Monzo, as well as mothers leading families, community leaders, and politicians holding enormous responsibility. Holiday's work focuses on what gets in the way of powerful leadership. She helps women reclaim the power they've diverted into people-pleasing, overthinking, shrinking, and self-doubt, and lead fully at work, at home, and in the world. Holiday believes women in their full power are the greatest force for change we have. And she has delivered keynotes at TEDx, London Fashion Week, and the 30% Club, and has been featured in The Guardian and BBC. And her viral essay, Performative Allyship is Deadly, has been read over 3 million times to date. And she is the mother of two sons and one stepdaughter and a wife, and they live on the magical island of Ibiza in a 200-year-old farmhouse in the middle of a forest. That sounds amazing. So, Holiday, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So, today we are talking about reclaiming your power and why brilliant women give their power away and how to take it back. So, yeah, I mean, when we think about giving power away, we sometimes equate it to people who haven't quite found their power and, can easily give power away. But actually, a lot of brilliant women give their power away, right? High achieving. So, what is actually going on with that, and why do you say that they might be doing that?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I love that your cat is here because for me, cats are such an emblem of feminine power and just I have a cat and I love my cat. So she is it a boy or a girl cat? He or she?
Gal Cat, Lyra.
Okay, so she is absolutely here,
Mm.
role modeling for us. So I've worked with hundreds of women, many hundreds of women who are talented, brilliant women who are, by all kind of external markers, would be seen as very much in their power. You know, CEOs, mothers, community leaders, and I've seen them time and time again change their opinion mid-sentence for the approval of the room, or shrink because they think what someone else has to say is more important, or not feel like they can ask for help because they're afraid to be vulnerable, or be trapped in a cage of perfection because they're afraid to make a mistake. Or the one I see most often, just no matter what they're doing or achieving, be running this internal program of I'm not good enough. And because of this that's happening, what I see happen is these women unable to fulfill the potential, or the joy, or the aliveness that they'd be able to have in this life. And I call that giving your power away. So, power, in my definition, or in Martin Luther, I use the Martin Luther King definition of power, which is the ability to achieve purpose. And when we have all of these things in the way, we're actually held back from achieving what our soul came here to do. Um, and in my philosophy, all of these things that we build up that get in the way of achieving our purpose were at one point brilliant adaptations. So people pleasing, the girl who felt, okay, I am only safe if I'm liked. Well, that was a brilliant adaptation. Or rigidity, perfection, control. Well, if I make mistakes, I'm not safe. Again, that's a brilliant adaptation to stay safe, but we keep running these programs way longer than is true. And that's the work that I really help women to do.
Yeah, definitely. And since these adaptations were created to keep them safe at one point, and it can show up in different areas. Like sometimes women are really able to step in their power completely at work, but not in relationships, or maybe they can do relationships, but not in family. So what's going on there?
Mm. Well, that's actually one of the adaptations that so I have a framework that I work with called the Powerful Framework. So it's eight adaptations or eight patterns that that I've most commonly seen women run that get in the way of their power. And one of those patterns is or adaptations I call fragmentation. So this is the pattern of exactly what you're speaking to. So I can be myself in this particular location, or I can be this part of myself in this particular location. And the integration path from fragmentation is integrity in the purest sense of the word. So we tend to think of integrity as like being good or right, but actually the purest sense of the word means whole. It's from the Latin integris, so it means to be whole. So to show up as your whole self in all places. The reason that fragmentation develops is this root belief somewhere that certain parts of myself are acceptable and others aren't. And so, for example, in the corporate space where I work, you might see women show up with their professional, calm, muted self, but they're not going to bring the full breadth of their sense of humor or aliveness, or they'll mask, so cover up parts of their cultural self, or the fact that they're a mother, or certain emotions that we deem to be, not appropriate, like anger or grief, or any of these things that they're part of the full palette of being human and being a woman. At some point, we learned, okay, this does not get me the sense of safety or approval or acceptance here. And so I'm going to cut this part off in this place so that I can get those things that I want. But of course, what happens there is that the sense of safety and approval and acceptance that truly matters, which is from ourselves, slowly gets eroded because we are continually reinforcing this belief that this part of me that I may have tried to bury, but is still there, is actually not good.
Yeah. And what happens if someone just keeps going on this trajectory?
Well, I think let's see how I can answer that in the best way. I think the truth of the matter is that most of us are going on that trajectory for most best part of our life. So,
Yeah.
you can have a perfectly okay life, let's say, doing all of these things. But most of us are not here for an okay life. Well, certainly I imagine the people who are tuning into um, this conversation,
Mhm.
we are here to really know what it feels like to live the full expression of our soul.
Mm.
So kind of an okay life, like, okay, you may not be in pain all the time. You might be, that may be, but you may not be in pain all the time. But actually the pain of knowing, the grief of knowing like I'm actually not letting my full soul, what I came here to do and be out, is actually very painful, even if the day-to-day feels okay, let's say. So
Mhm.
I'd say for most of us, what we experience is this like low hum of it might show up as anxiety, it might show up as confusion, it might show up as depression, it might show up as just a sadness, but this low hum of feeling like, why am I not fully stepped into my life? And I personally had this experience. So I turned 38 this year. And I've always had this sense, I come from like a very, very high achieving background. So a lot of the patterns I run around perfectionism and control and like never feeling good enough. And I always had this sense of, oh, when my life starts, so when I achieve this, this, and this, or when I get this, then I'll be in my life.
Yeah.
And I realized when I turned, approaching 38, I had this really, it was maybe earlier, 37, I had this really strong moment where I realized, oh wow, I'm like maybe nearly halfway through my life or approaching that. It's like, this is it. This is my life. This is the person that I am. There is no waiting to get there. There is no life to step into. Like, this is it. And when I had that awakening, let's say, then I had a realization like, and this is good, I am enough. It was very, very profound because I think that for many of us, we feel like we're in the waiting room of our lives, that when
Hmm.
we become this, when we get this thing, when the world changes to be this, then our life starts. But of course, we are already in it. And I think that's one of the greatest tragedies of being stuck in these patterns is that we get to the end of our life and we feel, oh, I never really inhabited it. And I really deeply desire every woman on the planet to have the embodied experience that I had then, which is like, wow, I'm in my life and I'm happy about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then some women as well, they might have done trainings or spoken to people or who've advised them to kind of just step into their power, like, and it seems more like performance because it's more from a mindset perspective. Why is this, you know, what's the difference between stepping into surface level confidence and deep work of reclaiming power? How can you explain the difference between the two?
Yeah, so I have worked for the last 15 years in, as you mentioned, in the with some of the most influential organizations in the world. And a big part of my work has been developing training programs for women leaders to do exactly that, step into their power, build confidence, build presence in a room, build strategies and mindsets. And the majority of corporate training, or even training in a lot of training in the personal development world, um, is about adding things. So we talk about adding confidence, adding strategies, adding methods. Now, the problem with that, although it does have a place, is that um, it assumes there's two things. Number one, it assumes that we don't already have those innate things in us. And so we need to go and get this new information and we need to add it onto us. But I actually don't believe that that's the true starting point. I think actually most of us, when I look at my boys, when they're 1 and 5, they have innate confidence and sense of play and sense of self-worth. They don't even have this concept of my 1-year-old having no self-worth. He just is. Actually, we have all of these innate things. They are innate to being human, but over time, things that happen to us mean that we lose them. So I think that's the first problem, is that we think we need to add things. We don't start at the place of like, wait, maybe I had that initially, but when did I lose it? And then the other piece is that we assume that knowledge equals embodiment, so that we can go on an online course and learn about all of the ways that you can step into your power, and then that becomes embodiment. And of course, that's not true. So I start in a different place. So I start from the fundamental belief that we are innately powerful, and you only have to look at a child to see that, but that we could have these adaptations to survive, to stay safe, and that actually the first step is to work out, where am I running these adaptations and how do I integrate them such that I can get back to my innate sense of power. And then the other piece is that it's a lived thing. We don't do this in a course and then go back to our life and assume to be changed. No, we really start with the life. So where am I shrinking in a conversation? Where am I telling myself I'm not good enough? Where am I not asking for help in my life? And we do it in an embodied sense. So I think and there are many people doing amazing work who are doing things with embodiment and who are starting more from the place of removing or integrating the adaptations, and that for me is really the work that we all need to be doing, versus thinking that we need to add things and that knowledge will equal embodiment.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned, removing the adaptations. Is there anything else that women can start doing today to just start reclaiming their power, even in small ways?
Well, I think that, and I actually want to adjust myself, because removing is not the best word. I would say understanding and integrating is a better word, because we can probably never fully remove something, but we can integrate it. So I just change that in my own language. Um, what can we do? Well, I think one of the biggest pieces. So there's working, on the self, understanding, integrating, embodying, all of these things. But I think one of the most powerful ways that we can do that is to not try and do it alone.
Mhm.
So to actually be in conversation, to be in community, to be in real sisterhood, because like I said, I've worked with hundreds of women individually, but in terms of when I've done stuff with groups, organizations, in the thousands, and I see the same things cross culture, cross age, cross over the last 15 years. These are things that we all have as a result of the society that we live in, as a result of the childhoods that we had. These are common human women themes. And I think that one of the biggest things that keeps us stuck is feeling that there's something innately wrong with us, or that we can't be understood, or that we're ashamed to be seen in these things. And for me, one of the most powerful things that we can do is come into community and share this work and do it together.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what this event is about, like really touching base with experts and leaders and authors like yourself and also each other because like you say people even the women I speak to always go through it's always the same kind of thread that's going through where do you like okay so we've spoken about a few personal issues do you think there's anything collective at the moment in 2026 that women are struggling with.
Yeah. I'm just going to plug in my computer 1 second because can see it's about to die. So what I think is rising up in the collective feminine is rage. When we look at um, the let's say like the tectonic plates that are moving under the earth at the moment, there is so much being unearthed and purged, corruption, abuse, um, domination, bad uses of power. And because war mentality, all of these things, and because we now all have access to see what's happening in real time, we're having a lived and embodied reaction to things, particularly if we look at, for example, the Epstein files, like well, as women, we are wired to protect children. Now, we all are, women and men, but there is anyone who is a mother or anyone who has watched a video of a wolf mother protect their cubs knows that it is ferocious and innate in us to protect children. So when we're seeing things like Epstein files, when we're seeing children being killed in Gaza, Sudan, Congo, it is a collective a volcano of feminine rage that is opening. And I think one of the biggest calls of our time is learning how to actually work with the energy of rage. So I talk about working with the archetype of Kali, the Hindu goddess, like how we actually work with this in a way that is generative rather than destructive. But let's not make any mistake. Like we need to feel our rage and we need to express our rage, but we need to find a way to do it collectively that actually destroys what isn't meant to be destroyed and create something that is good and pure and true. Um, so I think that really, yeah, learning to wield the sword of Kali, learning to work with the fire of rage is one of the biggest calls of our time as women.
Yeah, absolutely agree. So before we go on to your guided reflection, all about where you're giving your power away, I just want to talk about your free gift, which is available for everyone, which is a quiz on what's your power pattern. So could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so as mentioned, based on my, thousands of hours of work with women, I have identified 8 core patterns where we give our power away. So people pleasing, overgiving, worthlessness, emotional suppression, fragmentation, rigidity, unclaimed desire, and the lone wolf mentality. And we all are running one or more or all of these patterns, but most of us tend to have a dominant pattern based on the experiences we've had as children and young adults, and just the soul imprint that we come into the world with. So this quiz is just a really short but thorough way of identifying, okay, what is your dominant pattern, and then seeing what your integration path from that is and what the embodied practices that you can start doing in order to move from, for example, people pleasing to authenticity or overgiving to sovereignty or unclaimed desire to permission.
Amazing. So that link is down below. And yeah, Holiday, can I turn it over to you for the guided reflection?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Of course.
So I want to invite you to just close down your eyes and feel your body as it sits or lies here in the room. And take a few breaths into your body, just being here. And I want to invite you to gently guide your awareness to the point in your body where you feel your power lives. Maybe it's the solar plexus, maybe it's the gut, maybe it's the heart. We're just guiding your awareness to where you can locate your power in a somatic sense. And maybe right now it feels like a tiny flame, or maybe it's a huge wildfire. Neither is better or nor worse, just noticing what is there for you. And I want you to imagine yourself shrinking down to a tiny, tiny version of yourself and gently guiding this self to the center of that flame of your power. So you might see yourself standing in the center of that flame or in the center of that fire. Guiding yourself to this chamber in your heart or in your solar plexus where this flame burns. And from the center of your power, asking yourself, what does it feel like in my body to be in my power? And as you feel this, you might actually change your physical position. Maybe you roll your shoulders back. Maybe you sit upright more. Maybe your head comes up. Maybe you feel your energetic body expand. From the center of your power, what does it feel like in your body to be in your power? And actually move your body so that you can feel this, so you can have the embodied experience of feeling it. Now I want you to imagine that from this chamber, the center of your power, there are 8 doors around you. And with each of these doors, there's a different energy that wants to come in and put out the fire of your power. And as you feel into yourself in this embodied state of power, you can ask yourself, what comes in that dampens my fire? Maybe it is this need to be liked, this need to please. Maybe it is not asking for help. Maybe it's never feeling that you're good enough. Maybe it's always needing to be perfect. Whatever the energy that you feel comes into your life, I want you to imagine that something is coming out of that door and it's slowly putting out the fire like a drizzly, heavy cloud or a damp sponge that's just putting out this fire that just wants to burn. And as your fire goes out, I want you to feel in your body what that feels like. So maybe your shoulders slump, maybe your head bows down low, maybe you feel your chest cavity fold in. And take a few moments in that physical shape, physically in that shape of being out of your power, fold in on yourself inwards, small. And just noticing what that feels like in your body. You can notice any thoughts that are coming in. Just trying as much as possible to come back to this embodied experience of this cloud that comes in to put out the flame of your power. And then from this place, I want to invite you to start taking some deep breaths into your body, in through the nose and out through the mouth. And with each breath, imagine that you're stoking that fire again, like you would blow on some embers that seem like they've gone out, but the fire is still there. Really bringing that breath into your body, stoking that fire of your power again. And starting to expand the body, shoulders go back, head comes up, chest opens, and back again in this state of radiance. And from this place, taking a moment to notice if there's anything more settled in your body now. This active, intentional attention of what it takes to be in and out and in and out of your power. And if you need to take a few more breaths to really stoke and expand that fire, you can do so. And from this place of openness, from this place of awakeness, I want you to ask that little one in the center of your flame, what do I need? What do I need to do, to feel, to say? What's one small thing I can do to stoke the flame of my power? And just see what comes in. And from this place, you can thank all of the different patterns, the energies that are there to put out your power. You can thank them for showing you where you're giving your power away, for showing you the next step. You can thank the little version of yourself for journeying with you. And you can thank yourself, your heart, courage for being here today and journeying. And from that place, you can let that visualization slowly fall away and start to come back to your body as it is in your space, in your room. Start to come back to the breath, the feeling of air on your skin, the sounds around you. And whenever you're ready, you can gently blink your eyes back open, keeping a low gaze. And if you have a journal with you, you might just open a page and just free flowing right down. What did it feel like to be in your power, in this embodied sense of power? What did it feel like to be out of it? And what's the one thing that you can start to do today to stoke the flame of your power? And just taking a minute to do some journaling, anything that comes through. And of course, you can continue with this journaling as long as you need and come back to that visualization. But we'll leave you there for now in your unraveling and re-raveling.
Thank you so much, Holiday. That is such a potent exercise that people can do in their own time and come back to it. And also, you can pause this video at any time. And as mentioned, the free gift is down below, the What's Your Power Pattern, a quiz to discover where you're giving your power away and how to reclaim it, as well as Holiday's website, holidayphillips.com, and her Instagram. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, beautiful conversation. Thank you.